Welcome back to Mysterious Goings On. This is Alex Greenwood, your host, and today I have a special treat for you listeners. We are going to hear from one of the most acclaimed writers of her genre, and it's quite an interesting genre, if I say so myself. And I'm excited to speak with Adriana Gavazzoni today. She is not only a great author, but is a professor of law and a practicing attorney in Brazil. Welcome to the show, Adriana.
Hello, Alex. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I know you've had a long day. You're a practicing attorney in Brazil?
Yes, for 30 years I've been a practicing attorney.
Oh my. Is there a certain type of law that you practice?
Yes, corporate law. Corporate law.
Oh, corporate law. So it's not exactly the kind of law that you write about.
No. I write about mystery and murder, so I write about criminal law. When I was at the university, I was in love with criminal law, but never married. that genre.
Now, yeah. Well, you get to have those fantasies at least when you're writing your books. Now, you have written a series of books focusing on this very area, and it's the Hidden Motives series. Is that correct?
Yes, the Hidden Motive series, psychological and erotic thrillers.
Is the series separate books, if you see what I'm saying? Is it the same characters throughout, or is it different characters in similar genre? How does that work?
Oh, the books are connected. The main characters are the same on the three books, but there are different characters in each book. Just the main characters are the same. But it's a story that continues. It's really a series.
You really do weave the thriller, the mystery aspects in with the erotica so seamlessly. And it must be doing something right, because you're selling some books and you're getting lots of acclaim, and you've gotten, gosh, more awards than I can count.
Yes, I've got 5 gold medals, 5 gold awards for the series, 1 bronze, 6 honorable mentions, was finalist of 10 or 12 great contests. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah. How many languages are these books printed in yet?
Oh, just English and Portuguese.
Oh, that's...
The whole series and my last book that doesn't belong to the series, they were written in English, and I just translated the two first books to Portuguese.
Your native language is Portuguese, correct?
Correct.
So do you compose the books in Portuguese and then translate them to English, or do you write them in English and go the other way?
No, I go the other way. I write them in English. I send to my editor. My editor perfects my English. And then I decided to translate into Portuguese because I didn't want to mix things. I've been a lawyer for a long time. I have my clients. I work main of all with men. I didn't want my clients to have access to erotical books. So I decided to write in English, to hide abroad. And if the book was good, maybe one day I would bring to Brazil.
Oh, excellent.
But you can hide with social media. 5 days after I have released my first book, everybody knew.
Well, it seems to have worked out for you. But has that been difficult, understanding the culture of Brazil? And please forgive me if I'm incorrect here. You'll correct me. Is it a very male-oriented culture, particularly in corporate law, for example? Is it something where you obviously felt a need to not be terribly in your face to people about it before people figured it out?
Oh, it's not that complicated in my field. I've never feel that kind of bias. I've always worked with men, but I was afraid what they would think about their lawyer. Hey,
Hmm.
my lawyer should defend me on very hard day by day problems of my company. And suddenly, she's writing novels. I was afraid about that, of the judgment, but it never came. My clients just congratulated me. They said they were very happy to be my clients because I have a huge imagination, and a lawyer with a huge imagination is a great liar. So it was totally the contrary of what I was afraid of.
Yeah, yeah. And in our preview, we had a little email back and forth before the interview, and you had said that lawyers should be good storytellers.
Yes, in Brazil, the defenses are main of all written defenses. It's not like United States that you argue your cause in front of judges. That happens in criminal law in Brazil, but in civil law, corporate law, you have to write your defense and you have to convince the judge through your writing. So lawyers must be good storytellers.
Was this something to be a writer? Was this something that hit you early in life, or did it something that came after law school? When did you decide you wanted to write?
Oh, since ever, my parents used to tell me stories, and I was very curious to learn how to read my own stories. When I was reading my own books, I decided I need to tell stories. So I wrote my first uh, novel when I was around 12 years old.
Oh my!
Yeah, I just wanted to tell stories, but I didn't want anybody to read it. I thought, oh my God, my mom is going to kill me if she sees what I wrote. I can't. And one day I was so afraid. I just destroyed it and put in the garbage. And years later, I decided to write again.
Oh wow, that must have been so hard though to throw it away. And but I understand. Yeah.
For a kid, it's complicated. I mean, of all I was started my teenagers. Teenagers are very afraid of judgment, and I needed some time to decide to write. And I think it came with middle age. When I turned 45, I decided, hey, I have to fulfill my dream. Even if I can have I can find anybody to read my novels, I'm going to write something. So I was talking to a friend and I told him I would like to write a novel. And he said, oh, I would like to write one too. So we said, okay, you are going to write yours, I'm going to write mine, and we are going to have a book someday. I finished four already, and he couldn't finish the first. You always are finding some excuses for not writing, but okay.
It's like that National Novel Writing Month in November. It's where people they spend the whole month trying to crank out a novel because they just never have. And to some people, I think that must be very beneficial because they actually finish something. At least they finish a draft. But I've known plenty of people who started it, but it's kind of like your friend. They get 2 weeks in, and then life catches up, and oh, it's going to be Thanksgiving at the end of the month, and oh, I don't have time. And that kind of separates the actual writers, I think, from, and I don't mean this unkindly, but the wannabe writers.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to write from a profession, as I said before, and every day I have to write some defense. So I have a schedule. I did the same uh, with novels. I just decided to have a regular schedule. So every day I write for 1 hour.
Hmm.
So I start my morning writing from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I write. I write, I read what I wrote the day before, because I think if you have a schedule, you don't have excuses.
Right.
You put your brains to work, and I have ideas sometimes when I'm in the shower, when I'm driving, while I'm defending a client, I'm having ideas, I take notes, and on the next day I'm going to work on those ideas. Because if I give myself an excuse, oh, I'm not inspired today, no, I need to wait for the muses to sing in my ears, I will never write anything.
Yeah, I come from a line of writers, and I've written a series of mystery thrillers myself, and there's some days when I literally do not want to do it. But that's not material. It doesn't matter if you want to do it. You must, as we say, put your butt in the seat and write. And I love what you're saying. You get up, and every day there's this hour, and that's when you're working, and that's when you're writing. I think Stephen King said even if you're shoveling, crap from a seated position, at least you're putting something down on paper and you're keeping that consistent discipline going.
Yes, and as a writer, we have to do a lot of research. So if it's a bad day, no idea comes to me, I enjoy that 1 hour to research about things I need for my books, because I'm as a professor, I'm always worried about reality for background.
Hmm.
For example, my trilogy, they are psychological thrillers. The books are psychological thrillers, and I did a lot of research to compose every character that was being treated by the doctor. So I needed to give it some knowledge for my readers, something that was trustable. So I had to do tons of research. And days that I'm not inspired, I'm going to research. Uh, and I think we have to write and keep writing.
You write, you're very open about sexuality in your book. I mean, it's right there in the book descriptions. Not only is the thriller aspects, but there is some fairly raw sexuality going there. Has that ever been an issue with you as a female writer? Has anybody made you uncomfortable about that, or have you ever had a discomfort writing about sex, or is it easier for you to write about sex than perhaps other people? What is your take on that?
Some people, they really make very annoying questions because they try to mix the author with the characters.
Ah,
So they ask questions, trying to relate me to the main character and trying to relate me to those sexual scenes. I'm not uncomfortable to answer. I'm very comfortable about sex and about writing about this subject, so I'm not uncomfortable to answer. But some people tend to think I'm the main character and I was the one practicing this kind of abnormal sexual scenes that are right. And yes, they are very curious. How you can imagine that if you didn't believe that? I said, "Well, okay, but I kill many people in my books, and you are not asking me how I could kill and if I killed somebody before." So it's just the same. If I can imagine I'm killing somebody, I can imagine sexual scenes. It's just the same.
oh, that's the perfect answer. That's the exact right answer, isn't it? Yeah, I write about murderers too, but you don't ask me if I murdered someone.
Yeah, and I never even tried. So
I never even tried. Oh, that's perfect. Oh, that's perfect. So, apart from the trilogy, though, you have another work. This is different. Sketches of Life. This takes place in the middle of World War II, correct?
yes, it has a historical background. It doesn't have anything related to the trilogy. And it's completely different because I'm faithful to what I want to write. I'm not faithful to a style or a genre. So I really wanted to write about a woman that had to face difficult times during the Second World War, and how she survives in a world in turmoil. So the story is about two women. Both have to face times that were not predicted, the hardships, and they have to find the strength to survive. I talk about dementia in this book because dementia is how Alzheimer was called during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I had my grandfather had Alzheimer, and I think it was a way to face the disease when I wrote about it. So this book talks about dementia, talks about hard times, talks about people being uh, surpassing what they think they can do to survive. It's different. It has some sex scenes because people relate in this book. There is some romance, and I think sex is part of life. It doesn't matter if it's historical or not. People do sex from the beginning of the times. Thanks God, or we are not going to be here today.
It doesn't sound like those scenes are difficult for you to write at all. You sound like that is just not a problem for you at all to write sexual scenes.
No, I don't have any problem. I just close my eyes, I put my imagination to work, and I can write. Some people say it's too crude, it's too graphic. I don't know. I just don't want to say they closed the door, they made sex, and it's another day. No, I just want to describe the scenes for everything, for killing, for murders, for sex. I just love to say what happens.
Do you ever think about your books as if they could be films?
Yes, I think every writer's dream is to make their books into films. But I have no clue how to do a script. I have no clue how to get to someone who can do that. I live in Brazil, it's complicated. So I'm trying to expose the book the maximum that I can. So maybe one day someone will read it and say, "Hey, I'm going to do a movie with that book."
Well, I think when I work on mine and see if you feel the same way, I seem to write in a cinematic fashion. I seem to be unconsciously writing, not that I've written a lot of screenplays, but I seem to be writing mine in that way. I'm very big on lots of dialogue. I don't spend a ton of time describing every little thing. So I just wonder, I'm always curious when I speak to other writers how they approach that, if that's just something you do. And I haven't been immersed in your work yet, but I intend to. And I'm just curious about that. Do you feel that kind of urge or subconscious urge when you're writing to maybe make it very cinematic, or is that something that just has not occurred to you?
I've never thought about that, but now you are talking about it. I think I write in a cinematographic way because I really hate to describe too much little scenes and things like that. It comes from a trauma, from a book I had to read when I was a kid, and the guy spent 10 pages describing just a tree, and I said to myself, I'm never going to do that. And I love dialogues. I love dialogues. I don't love too much descriptions of scenes. Maybe it's cinematographic way to write, but I never thought about that.
I'm also really not a big fan of and this is just my quirk, I think, but I think other writers are the same. I don't really describe every aspect of what my characters look like. I give you a few hints, like perhaps he has brown eyes or she has blonde hair, but I don't go into deep descriptive detail about every feature of their bodies, and I definitely don't describe every stitch of clothing they're wearing.
Oh, I don't do that. I usually describe the color of the eyes. That's very important to me. And how tall they are. Usually, I use very tall characters because I'm a very small person. So I think it's another trauma. I need big people in my books. They usually are, except on the last one, my new novel, the main character is a short person, because I think I thought a lot about my grandmother, and my grandmother was also a short person. But I don't describe that. I don't describe cheekbones and things like that because I think the readers must create the characters on in their
Right.
minds.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to limit them. I don't want them to. I've had people, the whole, as we discussed previously, the whole movie thing. I've had people say, oh, I picture your lead character as being this actor or that actor. And occasion, I mean, they used to ask me, well, what actor would play those parts if you had a film of your books? And you know what? I stopped answering that question, Adriana, because I disappointed people because they always said somebody they had never thought of, and they said, no, that doesn't fit at all.
Yes, same with me. People usually ask, who would play Laura? Who would play Simone? And oh, okay, I never thought about that while I was writing. I really don't didn't make my characters based on real people. They exist in my imagination, so it's hard to me to try to translate into someone, into a real person. The only time I used a real person was in book two. I admired Antonio Bandeiras, and I really wanted one of my characters to look like him.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but for the rest, no, they live in my mind. It's complicated to me to relate to someone. I've asked myself that question lots of times, and I can find an actor and actress to be the characters.
Now, is the Hidden Motive series, is it strictly a trilogy, or will you continue that?
Oh no, not for now. Not for now. People ask me because there are lots of characters. There are patients. Simone is a psychiatrist. She treats patients during the whole series. And people say, hey, that patient, you should write only about him or her. But not for now. My first book, it's not directly related to the series, but is one of the characters that appears for just some moments and that I fell in love. I fell in love with a grandmother that was the perfect grandmother, and I wanted to write her story.
Oh,
So she's one of the characters of the trilogy, but she appears already as a grandmother, as an old person, and I wanted to tell her story. So she comes from that series.
I absolutely adore that because I think that's my series is 7 books. I'm working on the 8th book, and I love that I can have a character that I've liked, just like you're talking about. You have a character like that who maybe is a very peripheral character in previous work, but then I love lifting them off the page in a subsequent book and making them more of a featured character. So I love to hear that you're doing that. I also have a couple of writer friends where every now and then, as little in jokes and homages, we'll slip in little mentions of characters in our series that are in their series for just as a mention. It's just kind of fun to do. I don't know. Some people think that's silly, but I enjoy kind of having my character step into somebody else's world. But that's what reminded me of it, is that the fact that you took this character from your trilogy and you used her
That
backstory.
that's a great idea you just gave me. I'm going to read your books and borrow one of your characters.
Well, tell you what, make sure he has some good sex because I don't think he does.
Okay, I will. I will. I promise. I promise.
Okay.
One day I was talking to a friend and I told him, hey, I'm going to use you for one of my characters. And he told me, Christ's sake, don't make me too recognizable if I'm not going to be a great sex partner for one of your characters, okay?
It's so true. I love it. Everybody I've ever told, I said, "Look, I based this character partially on you," and they're always holding their breath until they realize which one it is. Yeah, because I had one friend that I based a bad guy partially on him, and he was actually complimented by that. But some people wouldn't have been. But no, that's hilarious. Make sure that I'm a good lover if you're going to base it on me. I love that.
Sometimes I base some characters that I don't like in some animes. Some people I've met in card that it's fictional work, but the characters are based on people that really exist.
No, you were so you based it on people who do exist. I wonder, and you've told me this kind of leading into this about your work and how there's situations like you could be working and something will pop into your head. Is there ever a time, and you don't have to answer this if it could get you in trouble, but is there ever a time when you're in a meeting with a client or maybe just a fellow attorney and somebody just says a really great sentence and you're thinking, I've got to write that sentence down and find a way to use it in my book?
Not only with clients and judges, but in every place I go. Sometimes people say a phrase and I take note. I have to go to the bathroom or some place like that to take note. And I say, that's going to make a great, 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 great scene.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
That. No, you're not. You're not. I think we writers, we think the same way. We live in a different world. Sometimes I think I'm a little bit schizophrenic between the two of us and the rest of the world because I can really live inside my mind when I'm writing. I can fight. I can have the emotions the characters are having, and sometimes it's a little bit schizophrenic, don't you think, Alex?
Oh yeah, totally do. And sometimes I find myself acting out unintentionally, trying out things that a character might say for my partner or for a friend, and just seeing what she would think, and she doesn't always know that's what I'm doing, but I do that. But here's something for you though. I'm curious about this. Do you ever dream about your characters?
During the night, no, never, never. Just daydream about them. Sometimes I'm daydreaming about their stories, and when I land down, I say, "Oh my God, I was living in another world." But it's pure daydreaming. It's not during the night.
Okay. I know the only time I do is when I'm in the midst. If I'm hot and heavy in the manuscript and I'm getting close to being finished, and I think my brain just can't completely shut off. And I think so. It makes me dream a little bit about it. Now, I got to say, I don't think there's ever been anything I dreamt that was useful. But it was at least it just showed me where my head was. But it's good that you can shut it off and not have to deal with it in your dreams.
No, I really, when I go to bed, I'm really so tired from a long day that I usually don't remember about my dreams. I just sleep till the other morning and till the other day, and I can't remember my dreams.
Huh.
But daydreaming, main of all, great ideas come when I'm in the shower. I don't know why.
Huh. Yeah, I was interviewing another author the other day, and I was mentioning I was really stuck on something too on this book I'm finishing up now. And I take about 4 days a week. We're pretty much on lockdown where I live with the quarantine, with the COVID.
So are we.
Oh yeah. And I know that it's your nation is being ravaged by this horrifically, and I send you our deepest condolences and best wishes for that. But I go on about a 5 to 6 mile hike 3 or 4 times a week just to get outside, to get out of the house. And the other day I was walking, and just what I love about physical activity, mindless physical activity, breathing the air, I was stuck on something. I got out there, and an idea struck me, and I had no pen and paper. I had my phone, so I furiously typed these notes into my phone. It really was helpful because if I don't, when these things strike me, I'll forget. But then the other day, one last thing, I was doing some yard work and I was listening to music, and this song came up, and the song was as if the character that I'm trying to figure out was trying to tell me something. And and from there, I swear to you, Adriana, I swear, the whole book changed with that song. Isn't that strange?
No, it's not, because it's just what happens to me sometimes. But I use two phones. I have one phone for my work and one phone for my personal life. And usually I take notes when something like that happens. I take notes, I send to my other phone. And I never know the end of my stories, okay?
Right.
I know I have a main idea, and I let the character tell me the
Yes.
story.
Yes.
So it's not strange when you said that, because that happens to me. Sometimes a whole song makes a whole difference. The book goes in another direction, and it's the way we writers are, I think. We let our characters talk to us. They have their own ideas. I don't have control over them. I can kill them sometimes because I really need to kill somebody in the books. I love to kill some people, but they say to me it's time for me to die. Get rid of me. You are too addicted in my character. So now kill me, and they kill me.
You're talking about killing characters. So originally my series was going to be a trilogy, and so I had a very solid character who I love, but it just made sense. He told me he needed to die, and so I killed him off. And then of course I decided to pick up the series and keep it going, and I've got a number in mind. It's not going to be 3, obviously. I'm on book 8 now. I won't go on forever, but point being, now I wish I'd never killed that character off because he was very useful.
Yes, I did something similar on my first book. One of my main characters, a woman, she starts the book as someone who is dead already.
Oh.
The book starts, a lawyer is hired to defend her boyfriend who killed her during a sex game. But the character gained so much life. She was so alive. I decided for us to write a second book based on her journals. So the second book is called Lyra's Journal, because I needed to write about her a little bit more. She gained a strength she didn't have in the beginning of the first book, but I had to give life to her. So she comes back through her journals.
That is a brilliant idea. I'm glancing at your beautiful website too, which, folks, that is at agavazzoni.com. The links will be in the show notes, of course. Your book covers are magnificent. Sketches of Life being, the one singular book, but I'm looking also at the course of the Hidden Motives, the trilogy, and there's this very sexy red color you use in a couple of them. How much input do you have in your covers?
Oh, I work with this fantastic artist, Kelly. She just can read my mind. And I'm very picky about covers. I think covers make the difference. So I start with an idea, and she starts to develop, and we develop together. But I can't finish if it's not exactly what was inside my mind. And she can translate my mind to the paper with perfection. Kellyanne Martin, she's the best one. She's a great artist. I work with her from the first book, and I hope I'll never stop working with her because she's wonderful. Same for my editor. I just love to work with both because they can read my mind. They know exactly what I want. So I love Kelly's covers.
I'm same. I started my trilogy when it was a trilogy. I had a different cover artist. He was a brilliant artist, but he didn't really know how to be commercial enough for the covers. They were a little too fine art. And then I brought on a wonderful cover artist, Jason McIntyre, who has helped me reimagine those first covers, and then he's done all the other covers since, and he's just done a magnificent job. He pretty well reads my mind as well. We rarely butt heads. He generally knows what's best for me, and I listen to him. And I've worked through, I think now, 3 or 4 different editors on my books, but the one who I've had the most, Robert Hayes, he has been with me through about 4 out of the 7, or he'll be on this 8th book too. And that is a difficult relationship to find. It's something that if you get it, you've really got to maintain that relationship as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I think the same. I have the perfect relationship with my editor and my cover artist, and I want to keep that because it's hard to find someone who feels the way you feel, who can translate the way you feel into beautiful art, who doesn't want to change your work because they think differently
Right.
of the way you think. So I was lucky. I was really lucky to find those two artists because both are artists in their own ways. And I love to work with them. It's very important when we find the right editor and the right artist.
Totally. All right. Last big question for you. What is it? What is the one thing that you think is misunderstood about your books and perhaps even yourself?
About my books is that I'm one of the characters. I don't know why the people don't think I'm the lawyer just because he's a man. That's misunderstood. I'm not the characters. I have nothing to do with my characters. And about myself, um, I don't know if I'm misunderstood at all because I'm 50 now. I know. I think people know a lot about me, and I'm a very open person. I love to relate with people. I don't think I'm misunderstood. But when I was younger, it was complicated people to understand my need of being alone.
Hmm.
They confuse that with being shy, that I'm not at all, with being arrogant, or with being uh, complicated. And I just need a space. It's just that. But nowadays, people that uh, belong to my world, my friends, they understand and they don't question anymore when they say, "Hey, I really need to be alone for a day or two, for some hours. I need to disappear," and I do that. I go to my farm. I have a farm in south of Brazil. I go there. I stay there alone for some days, or I lock myself in my room and I stay there, and people don't misunderstand anymore why I behave in that way.
I turned 52 5 days ago, and
Congratulations,
yes, thank
Alex.
you. Yes, and there is a certain. I think at this point in our lives, since we're